Jessie Buckley stars as young Leda in The Lost Daughter. I'm David Buchanan with Gold Derby. Jessie, it's such a pleasure to talk with you today. I wanted to start by asking about the character who is so rich and multifaceted, right? She's a brilliant young comparative literature scholar. She's a young mother of two daughters who's kind of struggling to have a career and a personal life and a professional life. So I was just wondering, what was kind of the first moment in the screenplay or the kind of first scene you were working on that you really felt like you knew and understood, who this character was?
Oh, I don't think it's never really one moment. It's like a collection of moments, because that's what you want to go on, is you have to meet somebody and go on a journey with them. So it wasn't necessarily one moment, but yeah, I think that was that, not necessarily one specific thing. I guess, like, really what kind of, you see a woman who's trying to, like, and what I felt when I read her was like, this woman is just trying to find life, and it's not that she thinks that being a mother to two daughters isn't life, but it's not enough. And how is she going to live the fullest life as both a mother and a woman and an intellectual and somebody who's something to offer into the world? That was the thing that she was the conflict and the struggle, and that was throughout that journey.
Yeah, I also wanted to ask you, before we dive into some of the specific scenes, about working with the novel. So Maggie Gyllenhaal has beautifully adapted this film from Elena Ferrante's novel. When you were reading the screenplay, did you also read the novel, and how useful was it to have not just Maggie's work, but also the source material to refer to as you were, building the character and throughout production?
Yeah, I did read the novel. I'm somebody who likes to just put whatever ingredients I find into a big cooking pot, and before we even start shooting, and then ultimately when we get to shooting, it's whatever comes out. It's nothing to do with you or the novel or anything, and the script is always like Bible, and Maggie had done such an amazing job that it was that was the thing. But yeah, I did read the novel, and Elena Ferrante's, I mean, it's kind of an extraordinary thing that she does. Like, she writes under a pseudonym, in a world where everybody wants to be known. It's a pretty radical thing to, like, do that, and to maybe that affords her a way to speak more honestly. And I'm grateful that whatever she's doing, I'm grateful for it.
Yeah. Also on Maggie, I wanted to ask you about working with a director, not just a first-time director for a feature film, but a director who's also an actor and has such a long history of acting. What is that like for you as an actor to, take direction and collaborate with somebody who knows, what you're doing in your art form so well?
Well, like, I mean, Maggie's an extraordinary actress, and I've always admired her. But really, like, when this came to me with her as a director, it was totally simple, because I just think she's an incredible woman, and she has a true leadership about her. And I really admire her as a woman. I remember being in New York with some girlfriends way before this script came around, and we saw Maggie on the street. We were all fangirling over her and kind of trying not to look like we were stalking her. But Maggie has that essence of, like, she's a strong woman, and I think she's an enabler. And as an actress on set, I felt that she created a space as a director for me to step into as a young woman, and to really grow and to be really brave. And I would have jumped off the cliff for Maggie, and I think that's because of who she is as a person. Whatever she does as an actress or as a director or whatever, if I was to work with her in any other capacity, I would have probably felt the same, because of who she is.
Yeah, and speaking of another strong woman on screen, you're co-starring with Olivia Colman, even though you don't actually share any scenes on screen. I've read and heard that you and Olivia, didn't really work too closely on, trying to shape the character together, because the times of the film are so different, past and present. So I wanted to know more about that decision. What was it like and was it liberating to say, we're not going to try to copy each other or emulate each other in the performance, and just let, the characters at these different ages live in that way?
Yeah, totally. And that was Maggie as well. Like, I think it would have done a disservice to the character of Leda, because she's somebody who encompasses life. If she was asking us to replicate an idea of a woman, that would have been totally wrong for this character. And people change. Like, we all have different chapters in our life, and people change their hair, and people go on different life journeys. So that was the more interesting choice. Olivia, I mean, it was to be, we got to hang out basically. We that was most of our our research, and have fun, which we're very good at fun.
Yeah, and I think it translates so well, because there is such a kind of kinship of spirit, even though that you're not necessarily just trying to recreate the same person across time. It's incredibly effective. I asked you about the novel a few minutes ago. I also wanted to ask you about another literary work that has a kind of connection to the novel, which is the Yates poem Leda and the Swan. That's the namesake of your character. And obviously your character is a professor and an academic, and knows the poem and is working on translations of work. So I just wanted to know, did you read the poem to prepare for the role? And if you did you find anything in it that helped you maybe unlock something of the character that wasn't on the page, a psychology or, a frame of mind?
Yeah, I did. So I'm just going to tell you that I'm in my dressing room and someone's warming up behind me. So if you hear like someone going, ba, 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 that's what's happening. Nick, you're in somewhere. Yeah, I'd never read the poem before. But when I did, I absolutely loved it. And it kind of haunted me, throughout the process a little bit. And I kept rediscovering new things in it. And the poem is kind of perceived as quite a violent poem. It's about Zeus transforming himself into a swan and raping this young woman, Leda, who he fancies. And from this act, basically Agamemnon burns down, but also from this act, Helen of Troy is born. And I found that part really interesting, like the fact that something so violent could create something so powerful. This young woman, and actually that was something that I really connected to with my own daughters in the film, of like, what if one of them is Helen of Troy? This explosion has happened in my life. The like walls that I've always known to be around me and who I am have burned down. And yeah, from this, maybe the gift is actually this brilliant new young woman is going to be birthed forward from me. And I remember, like, when we were shooting then, I found this one painting, I can't remember who did it, of Leda and the Swan. And from people's understanding of the poem is that it's an attack from the swan. But in this one painting, there was like one painting where it almost looked like Leda was also kissing him. And I was like, in some way, maybe, in what you have one story, and it's the same with motherhood. Like, our idea of this one story of a natural mother is X, Y, and Z. But actually, if you look at it in a different way and you see something else in it, maybe something really poetic and beautiful and bigger can come out of it. And maybe we should stop telling ourselves the same story of what this should be. I've totally rambled on. You probably lost me, and I'm going to stop now.
No, I think that's incredibly insightful and really opens up the film in a really lovely way, because I was rereading the poem last night myself to prepare, and it was really striking how it really ties into the themes of the novel and the film so beautifully. I did want to ask you too about working with, you mentioned the two daughters, the two girls you're acting across in this film. And I have to imagine that those scenes in particular were incredibly challenging because they're emotionally complex, and they're, you know, there's a whole array of emotions. There's anger, there's love. So acting with two young girls who were so great in the film, but also in these really kind of emotional scenes must have been very challenging.
Yeah, I love working with kids. I think they're the most honest crowd. And it makes you really alive, you know. If they're bored, they're bored. And you like in those little moments, it's uncomfortable, right? Like you're like, oh God, we got to get this scene, you know, this is, but sometimes from moving through that uncomfortable place, something really interesting can come out. And those two girls were so amazing. And Robin had acted, the older girl had acted before, but Ellie hadn't. And Robin was so beautiful. Like she kind of understood what needed to happen. And you know, Ellie, who hadn't acted before, she had a way of like inviting her into the scene. And we improvised a lot like together, and we kind of just created a mood really of what the scene would be. And I really loved it, and I really love working with kids. And I think they're incredible in the film. Like I think what they do is really amazing. And I think what Helene and Maggie caught of them is something really real as well. So like I think that's what we were trying to find, is actually just those moments between each other. But we totally fell in love. Like we were like a little team, you know, it was just me and them for kind of 2 weeks, and they're my pals.
Yeah, no, that really, the chemistry really translates, even though, you know, as I said, there's a lot of emotionally volatile scenes in those, you know, 2 weeks that you were working with them, but the kind of love and bond that you established really comes across on the screen. Okay, I do want to ask you a couple of questions about the plot and about the characters. So if you haven't seen the film yet, you can pause this, go watch it immediately, and then please come right back and listen to the next few questions. But one of the scenes of yours that struck me the most, and it's early on in the film, is when you're sitting opposite your husband and kind of saying to him, you know, I don't know if I can do this anymore, something along those, you know, I'm not getting the line exactly right, but the expression on your face, the kind of far away, steely glance, and the emotion on your face is so striking and so haunting. It's one of my favorite kind of visuals of the film. If you remember anything about that shooting that moment, can you just take us inside, you know, what was going on in your head, and what are the emotions that you're processing when you're having that, you know, very frank and honest conversation?
Yeah, I actually think that was one of the moments that I probably grew up a bit as a woman. And I remember we were rehearsing it, and it's funny what you do with like feelings that feel uncomfortable, you know, our reaction, our kind of sometimes you can kind of smooth over it and laugh it off and like kind of be girly, you know, be like less of yourself. And I remember Maggie brilliantly was like, hold it, don't diffuse it. Like whatever you're trying to diffuse is what you need to really tell him how exactly you're feeling. And it was really scary, like it was scary. And but then once I accessed it, it kind of came out, and like actually just really needing to say to him, I'm not surviving here, you know, I'm gonna die. You know, and I can't, I don't know if I can do this, which is a really hard thing to admit, you know. But I think that was Maggie being a brilliant director, being like, step into a bigger space as a woman, don't diffuse it, which is what Leda is trying to do in that scene.
Yeah, it's really, as I said, a stunning, just kind of, even just the still of it, and thinking back on it, a really stunning and beautiful moment. I just wanted to ask you about a moment, one of the many moments with your daughters, which is that pivotal scene with the doll. And I'm so interested in, you know, what that kind of flashback means for the film as a whole, as you're, you know, a very loving kind of maternal gesture of giving your daughter this doll that was yours, a kind of, you know, passing of the torch of generations, motherhood and daughters, and then, you know, her doing something with it that you feel is, your character feels is, you know, disrespectful, and then the doll gets smashed. And what that means for, you know, what Olivia Colman's version of your character is doing in the present day. I just wanted to ask you, you know, how you kind of read that scene in relation to the arc of the film, because it really is, I think, pivotal in kind of unlocking some of the psychological mystery of what's happening.
Well, I think anybody should take away whatever they need to from that doll, you know. But the thing that I discovered from this story was, you know, even between women, there is a kind of repressive chain that we hand down to each other. And something that like came to my mind when I was shooting is like the kind of lineage of these stone mothers, you know, these women who just entune themselves, and actually how much we don't unconsciously handing a doll over to a young girl is handing down the thread of motherhood and whatever that means. And you know, we hold these things so, like having a Barbie or having a doll is the most precious thing to children sometimes. And you know, in one way, when she gives her that doll, she's passing down a heritage of things. And when she defaces that little doll, in some way, that's, I mean, it's a really interesting moment. Like, you know, maybe it's her daughter going, stop. Or maybe it's her taking that motherhood and whatever, you know. And I guess it felt like in that moment where it is defaced and it is chucked out out the window, that the chain is cut. I don't know. That's my perception. People can have whatever they want with it.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful reading of the scene. But as you say, there's so many different, especially in the latter half of the movie, so many different things you can read into, you know, your character's relationship to the doll, past and present. Jessie Buckley, congratulations on The Lost Daughter and on Cabaret, which is why we're hearing some background singing. No, it's delightful. Congratulations on both projects, and thanks so much for talking to Gold Derby today.
Thank you. Bye.